What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Buzz. At the Jake Paul vs. Anthony Joshua event on Friday night, former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovski was involved in a physical altercation with popular streamer Jack Doherty and several individuals from Doherty's group. The incident quickly gained attention on social media after video footage surfaced showing a tense confrontation that nearly escalated further before security intervened. Witnesses at the event described the scene as chaotic, with shouting and multiple people attempting to separate those involved. In the video, Arlovski appears visibly frustrated, while others can be heard urging everyone to calm down and move away from the situation. Security personnel eventually stepped in and escorted Doherty and his group out of the area to prevent further escalation. Following the incident, both parties addressed the situation publicly. Andrei Arlovski commented directly on the circulating video, expressing regret for how things unfolded. In his comment, he wrote that he was sorry and acknowledged that his behavior was not representative of how a professional athlete should act. His response suggested an attempt to de-escalate the situation and take accountability for his role in the confrontation. Jack Doherty later shared his version of events on X, formerly Twitter. According to Doherty, he was simply walking by when Arlovski allegedly attempted to kick him without any provocation, which he claims triggered the altercation. Doherty emphasized that he did not say or do anything to instigate the situation and felt unfairly blamed because of his age and online persona. He went on to criticize what he described as public bias, stating that people were quick to point fingers at him rather than considering his side of the story. Doherty argued that viewers should watch the video carefully before making assumptions, and suggested that his age and financial success made him an easy target for criticism. Concluded by reiterating that the confrontation began when Arlovski allegedly tried to kick him as he walked past. As of now, neither side has indicated whether further action will be taken, but the incident has sparked significant debate online regarding accountability, professionalism, and behavior at high-profile sporting events. Before we jump into the next story, we have a small favor to ask. If you're enjoying the content, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and tap the bell icon. It really helps us out and ensures you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. UFC heavyweight contender Tom Aspinall was not impressed by the highly anticipated bout between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua, offering a blunt assessment of the matchup and its outcome. When asked whether he would be interested in seeing a similar fight again in the future, Aspinall made it clear that the event did not live up to expectations. According to Aspinall, the fight lacked excitement and unfolded largely as he had predicted. He explained that it was unrealistic to expect Jake Paul to stand and trade punches with an elite heavyweight like Anthony Joshua early in the fight. In Aspinall's view, doing so would have been extremely dangerous and likely ended the contest even sooner. Instead, Paul attempted to rely on movement, circling the ring and staying out of range in an effort to avoid Joshua's power. However, Aspinall pointed out that this strategy was never going to be sustainable over the course of the fight. While using footwork and defense can be effective in short bursts, he noted that a fighter cannot remain evasive for the entire bout without eventually engaging. At some point, Aspinall explained, exchanges are inevitable, especially against an opponent with Joshua's size, reach, and experience at the highest level of boxing. As the fight progressed, Paul was eventually forced to trade punches, and the outcome followed exactly as many critics had expected. Once the exchanges began, Joshua capitalized on the opportunity, landing decisive shots that led to Paul being knocked out. Aspinall suggested that the result highlighted the massive skill and experience gap between a seasoned professional heavyweight champion and a crossover fighter. Former UFC interim welterweight champion Colby Covington echoed similar sentiments following the fight. Covington publicly criticized the matchup, labeling the contest embarrassment and questioning its legitimacy as a competitive sporting event. His comments added to the growing backlash from fighters and fans who believe such exhibitions undermine the integrity of combat sports. Overall, the reactions from Aspinall and Covington reflect a broader skepticism within the MMA community regarding crossover boxing events, particularly when they involve elite-level professionals facing opponents with limited experience at the highest level. Move on to another news. Former UFC middleweight champion in Israel, Adesanya, shared his honest assessment of the fight between Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul, suggesting that the bout lasted longer than it realistically should have. Speaking after the event, Adesanya implied that Joshua deliberately allowed the fight to extend into the later rounds, rather than ending it at the earliest opportunity. During his reaction, Adesanya closely followed the action as Joshua began landing clean shots, noting moments where Jake Paul was clearly hurt and struggling to recover. He highlighted the knockdowns as evidence of the significant gap in skill, power, and experience between the two fighters. As the round progressed, multiple knockdowns occurred in quick succession, signaling that the end of the fight was inevitable. Once the referee stepped in and completed the count, the contest came to a decisive conclusion, prompting reactions of respect and sportsmanship from those present. When asked for his honest thoughts on the matchup, Adesanya did not hold back. He stated that, in his view, Anthony Joshua carried Jake Paul to the 6th round. Adesanya emphasized that his opinion was rooted in his own fighting experience and deep understanding of combat sports. He explained that a heavyweight of Joshua's caliber has the ability to end a fight much earlier when facing an opponent with limited elite-level boxing experience. According to Adesanya, Joshua appeared to control the pace of the fight, choosing when to engage and when to hold back. Rather than pressing for an early knockout, Joshua allowed the fight to develop, which ultimately made the contest appear more competitive than it truly was. Adesanya suggested that this approach may have been intentional, whether for entertainment value, contractual obligations, or simply to give Jake Paul the opportunity to gain experience against a world-class opponent. Despite his criticism, Adesanya acknowledged that the final outcome was likely the most realistic result given the circumstances. He noted that the fight ended exactly where many expected it to, with Joshua asserting his dominance once the exchanges became unavoidable. Overall, Adesanya's comments reflected a broader sentiment within the combat sports community. While the spectacle drew attention, the competitive imbalance was evident from the opening bell. Move on to another news. A few days ago, UFC lightweight contender Arman Tsarukyan took a public jab at Ilia Topuria on social media, reigniting tension between the two fighters. Posting on Threads, Tsarukyan mocked the ongoing rivalry by claiming that Ilia was living rent-free in Paddy Pimblett's head, a comment clearly intended to stir debate among fans and fighters alike. The post quickly drew reactions from users, with one commenter shifting the focus back to Ilia Topuria, referring to him by his nickname El Matador. In response, Tsarukyan escalated the situation further by making a personal remark, stating that Ilia was busy with his ex that day. The comment was widely viewed as unnecessary and disrespectful, prompting backlash from fans who felt the exchange had crossed the line from competitive trash talk into personal attacks. Ilia Topuria did not stay silent. When asked about Tsarukyan's comments, Topuria responded directly and forcefully, making his stance clear. While acknowledging Tsarukyan's skills inside the cage, Topuria criticized him for what he described as a lack of commitment when it mattered most. According to Topuria, Tsarukyan had multiple opportunities to step up and compete but chose not to, a decision that Topuria believes speaks louder than any online insults. Topuria emphasized that injuries and physical discomfort are a reality for every professional fighter. He explained that arm pain, leg pain, and various injuries are part of the sport. Yet, fighters are still expected to show up and honor their commitments. In his view, refusing to compete while others push through adversity undermines the credibility of a fighter's competitive spirit. He went on to deliver a sharp closing remark suggesting that Tsarukyan should focus less on social media and more on his own decision. Topuria implied that backing out of competition reflects weakness, not strategy, and mocked Tsarukyan for making excuses rather than proving himself in the cage. His response made it clear that, from his perspective, Tsarukyan's words hold little weight without corresponding action. The exchange has further fueled speculation about a potential future matchup between the two fighters. Fans are now closely watching to see whether this heated war of words will eventually lead to a fight inside the octagon, where both men would have the opportunity to settle their differences once and for all. Move on to another news. Andrew Tate recently reflected on his majority decision loss to Chase Damore, offering a candid and introspective assessment of the fight and his return to competition. While the outcome was not what he had hoped for, Tate emphasized that the true objective was never solely about winning. Instead, he wanted to test himself and determine whether he still had the ability to compete at a high level after a long absence from the sport. Tate acknowledged the significant challenges he faced heading into the bout. At 40 years old, having been retired for a decade and dealing with major personal hardships, he understood that stepping into the ring against a younger, larger, and more active opponent was a daunting task. However, he made it clear that he deliberately sought out a real challenge rather than opting for an easier matchup against someone smaller, older, or less competitive. According to Tate, he believed he won the first 2 rounds before the momentum shifted. As the fight progressed, Damore began to use his size and strength more effectively, leaning on Tate and draining his energy. Despite this, Tate stressed that he never quit and remained committed to fighting until the final bell. He stated that he had no excuses, praising his training camp and accepting the reality that age inevitably plays a role in athletic performance. Tate expressed deep respect for Timur, refusing to offer criticism or rationalizations for the loss. He acknowledged Timur as the rightful winner and credited him for displaying heart, grit, and determination throughout the fight. Tate went as far as to say he was proud of Timur's performance and pleaded to see Misfits boxing represented by what he described as a true champion. Rather than feeling disappointed, Tate framed the experience as a personal victory. He explained that the only scenario in which he would feel regret is if fear had stopped him from competing at all. He recalled being advised against fighting due to his age and recent struggles, but admitted that feeling fear for the first time in his life convinced him that stepping into the ring was necessary. Tate concluded by stating that he is not afraid of losing, but deeply afraid of never trying. He reaffirmed his belief in himself and made it clear that if given the opportunity to fight again, he would step forward with the same confidence and conviction. In his view, confronting fear head-on defines who he is, and Chase Timur's victory deserves full and unquestioned respect. Move on to another news. Former UFC welterweight title challenger Darren Till shared strong and unfiltered opinions following Andrew Tate's loss, delivering a blunt critique of the fight and the broader direction of crossover boxing events. Till, who was in attendance for the event, revealed that he chose to leave midway through the fight, stating that what he was witnessing conflicted with everything he values about combat sports. Till began by emphasizing his lifelong commitment to martial arts, explaining that he has dedicated nearly 2 decades to the sport. He described himself as someone who built his career on high-level striking and considers himself among the best striking martial artists in the world. From his perspective, combat sports demand discipline, respect, and technical excellence, qualities he felt were missing from the bout he was watching. According to Till, seeing what he referred to as unqualified fighters competing on such a platform was deeply frustrating. He expressed disappointment that individuals with limited technical background were able to headline events and call out established professionals. Till stated that he found the situation disrespectful, not only to himself, but to the history and integrity of the sport. The experience, he said, made him feel as though he was unlearning everything he had spent years mastering. Till explained that his decision to leave the venue was not about Andrew Tate personally, but about what the fight symbolized. In his view, the rise of influencer-driven boxing has blurred the line between entertainment and legitimate competition, often at the expense of technical skill and professionalism. He questioned what he was truly watching and whether such events align with the principles that once defined combat sports at the highest level. He also criticized the role of social media, arguing that while it has given everyone a voice, it has also created a false sense of confidence among fans and online personalities. Till noted that while many people are quick to offer opinions and criticism through direct messaging and comment sections, very few are willing to have those conversations face-to-face. This disconnect, he suggested, has contributed to a culture where respect and accountability are increasingly absent. Overall, Till's remarks reflected a deep frustration with the current landscape of crossover fighting events. His comments underscored a growing divide between traditional fighters and influencer-driven spectacle, highlighting ongoing debates about credibility, respect, and the future of combat sports. Move on to another news. Strickland did not hold back following Andrew Tate's recent loss, delivering a harsh reaction on social media that immediately sparked controversy. Posting on X, Strickland claimed that he had warned people about Tate, dismissing Tate's past accomplishments and stating that his ISCA championship credentials meant very little. According to Strickland, the fight exposed Tate and confirmed his long-standing criticism of him. Strickland's comments quickly drew a response from Tate's opponent, Chase Timur. Timur fired back aggressively, directly insulting Strickland and warning him to be careful with his words. The exchange escalated online, adding another layer of tension to an already polarizing fight and highlighting the volatile reactions surrounding Tate's return to competition. Andrew Tate later addressed the situation himself with a lengthy and reflective post. Tate acknowledged that most men in their 40s, especially those with immense financial success, would choose comfort over risk and limit themselves to online commentary. He emphasized that he was fully aware of his age, the long layoff from competition, and the physical disadvantages he faced going into the fight. According to Tate, those realities were precisely why he chose to step back into the ring to confront fear rather than avoid it. Tate openly admitted defeat, stating that he lost fairly and without excuses. He praised Chase Timur as a true champion and warrior, expressing pride in Timur's performance and affirming that he fully deserved the title. Tate's remarks reflected a tone of acceptance and respect, standing in contrast to some of the more hostile reactions circulating online. In a moment of further honesty, Tate also conceded that he would likely lose to Jake Paul if the two were to fight. He explained that time is ultimately undefeated and acknowledged that combat sports are best suited for younger athletes. His comments reinforced the theme that age and wear eventually catch up to every fighter, regardless of confidence or legacy. Andrew Tate's brother, Tristan Tate, also shared his thoughts following the bout. Tristan noted that Andrew is no longer the same fighter he was a decade ago and pointed to age as a clear factor in the outcome. Despite that, he expressed deep respect for his brother's willingness to compete and take on the challenge. Tristan concluded by stating that he fully supports Andrew in whatever path he chooses moving forward. Together, the reactions paint a complex picture of the fight's aftermath, one defined by criticism, reflection, respect, and ongoing debate about age, legacy, and courage in combat sports. Move on to another news. Former UFC interim welterweight champion Colby Covington delivered a scathing assessment of the Jake Paul vs. Anthony Joshua fight, labeling the entire event an embarrassment for combat sports. Covington made it clear that he was not impressed by Jake Paul's performance, even though Paul managed to last 6 rounds against the former world heavyweight champion. According to Covington, the fact that some fans actually believed Jake Paul could win the fight was shocking. He dismissed any suggestion that the bout was scripted, sarcastically adding that if there had been a script, Anthony Joshua clearly never received it. Covington compared the fight to a well-known pop culture spectacle, likening it to Johnny Knoxville's infamous boxing match with Butterbean, where the appeal was rooted more in curiosity and spectacle than legitimate competition. Covington argued that most viewers tuned in not to witness a competitive boxing match, but to see whether Jake Paul would actually go through with facing a true heavyweight boxer and endure the consequences. In his view, Paul fulfilled that expectation in humiliating fashion, rather than proving toughness or boxing legitimacy. Covington claimed the fight only demonstrated poor judgment and a lack of understanding of the sport's realities. He further criticized the betting public, expressing disbelief that anyone would place money on a former Disney Channel star defeating an Olympic gold medalist and multiple-time world heavyweight champion. To Covington, the mismatch highlighted how far entertainment-driven boxing events have drifted from sporting credibility. Covington described the entire production as a disgrace, suggesting it did nothing to elevate boxing or combat sports as a whole. He speculated that the loss might mark the end of Jake Paul's attempts to be taken seriously as a fighter, implying that the gap between influencer boxing and elite-level competition had finally been exposed. Closing, Covington emphasized that there are no shortcuts to becoming a legitimate fighter. He stated that no amount of marketing, promotion, or outside advantage can replace years of discipline, sacrifice, and high-level competition. He urged Jake Paul to step away from fighting and leave the sport to trained professionals, reinforcing his belief that elite combat sports demand respect, authenticity, and earned credibility. Covington's comments echoed a broader sentiment among traditional fighters who remain deeply critical of crossover boxing events, viewing them as spectacles that undermine the integrity and seriousness of professional combat sports.